Oh, poor Poppy. Yeah, I'm not stoned enough for this.
This is Marlboro country.
Now, if you look at history,
what's this?
I consider myself an educated guy. If someone had said to me a few years ago, Dinesh, how many people were killed in the Salem witch trials? I would say, you know, I'm not sure, but, you know, I read Arthur Miller's The Crucible in college, and
me too.
It's a big spot on American history. I don't know, hundreds, maybe thousands.
Yeah. Actually,
well, how many people were killed in the Inquisition? Well, that was kind of a biggie. The Spanish Inquisition, which was the most notorious.
Inquisition, Salem witch trials, that's it?
Thousands, millions.
What about the wars of the Reformation?
What
about the Crusades?
History, and there's now a wide and reliable scholarship on all this. I would recommend Henry Kamen's book on the Inquisition. He's considered the greatest living authority on the subject. He points out that the Spanish Inquisition, over a period of 350
no one expects a Spanish
years,
Inquisition.
Killed approximately 2,000 people. I'm not
Seems
exactly
a
math major,
what
but
about
by my count,
the Catholics going after the Cathars in southern France?
Now, that's about as
I think that was more than 2,000 people. That was the
killed on
reason
a good
for
afternoon. My point is,
Pol
here
Pot,
you have the
communist
Inquisition. Well,
dictator
what about
of
the
Cambodia,
Salem witch
following
trials? All you have to do is go to Salem. The witches are really thriving. Most of them are now tourist guides. And if you pick up one of their brochures, you'll see right away the number of people killed in the Salem witch trials was in fact precisely...
Okay, that was in America, in New England. That wasn't Europe.
2018 too many, but look,
you know,
let's keep a little sense of proportional balance. While the atheists are crying crocodile tears over the crimes of Christianity that occurred 200, 500, or in the case of the Crusades, 1,000 years ago, crimes that, by the way, are unrepeatable today. We're not exactly going to have the Salem witch trials here in Pasadena next week.
But we couldn't have the
Meanwhile,
Crusades over?
the atheists completely ignore and duck and try to get out from under the crimes of atheist regimes, which are not ancient. In fact, they have occurred within living memory in the last century.
And fascist regimes.
I'm not just talking about Stalin in Russia or Mao in China or the Nazi regime. True, if you bring those three together, those three regimes in the space of a mere 5 decades killed no fewer than 100 million people. In other words, the regimes of atheism have produced a virtual mountain of bodies and an ocean of blood. We're not even talking about Pol Pot,
like the Crusaders when they waded knee-deep through Middle Eastern cities in blood.
The list goes on.
They wrote about it.
Now,
they bragged about it.
Richard Dawkins in The God Delusion makes an extremely important qualification. He says, well, yes, it is true, but you have to notice that the Christians killed in the name of Christianity. You may have had tyrants who were atheists, but they really didn't kill in the name of atheism. Now, Dawkins is actually an accomplished biologist.
They did it.
But I think that there are some dangers to letting a biologist leave the lab. And why?
Oh, funny. Keep them
because here is a guy who's straying out of his field, reveals a complete ignorance of history. All you have to do is read the Communist Manifesto. All you have to know is a little bit about these different regimes to see right away that this wasn't a matter of having a dictator who happened to be atheist.
This isn't,
the whole idea in Marx is that religion is the opium of the people. The whole idea is to create a new society, a new man, and a new utopia.
And the dogma of communism was going to replace
traditional religion and traditional morality.
I was going to quit. Well, I think this would best be accomplished through a dog walking.
Sample? Sample?
I want to remind our dear friend Mr. D'Souza a basic precept of logic, which is just because A equals B doesn't necessarily mean that B equals A. Just because all rapists are men does not mean that all men are rapists. Okay, so according to Dinesh's logic, we can blame shamanism, which was the religion of the Huns and the Mongols, for their depredations upon Asia and Europe, right? I mean, those Native Americans are just, come on. It's people's belief structures are broader than just religion. People will kill in the name of religion, but people seriously do not kill in the name of atheism. There has to be some other ideology there, political, social. This is a point that I really agree with Sam Harris on, that there shouldn't even be a word atheism, or some people call themselves brights or secularists, whatever. Just because there shouldn't be a word, because it's not a belief in anything. It's not nihilism. It's just you don't believe in supernatural forces. To the most part, that's what most atheists profess. They don't believe in a god or fairies or elves or anything of that nature. So why have a word? We don't have a word for non-stamp collectors, to use that old canard. We don't have a word for people who don't believe in UFOs. I'm both of those things, and no one hits me with a label for that.
So here's my bottom line, and that is, if you think the Bin Ladens of the world are bad, Bin Laden in his wildest imagination could not even begin to match the crimes of atheism that have occurred within our lifetime. It is atheism, not religion, that is responsible for the mass murders of history. Now, we'll see from Michael Shermer some dodging on this issue, so I just want to preempt this as I conclude by reading you a line from Daniel Dennett in his book, Breaking the Spell. He says, "It is true that the religious fanatics are rarely inspired or guided by the deepest and best tenets of those religions." Then he says this, "So what? Al-Qaeda and Hamas, terrorism is still Islam's responsibility, and abortion clinic bombing is still Christianity's responsibility." To which I say, amen. In other words, if crimes are committed in the name of an ideology, the people who share that ideology must accept some responsibility for them. But here's my point. Let's be a little even-handed about that. If that is true of religion, it is also true of atheism. The atheists don't get to dodge and say, well, really, but we wouldn't do that. We're such nice people. The atheists don't get to blame the Christians for Torquemada and then get out of the blame for, say, Stalin. We have to use a single standard in this argument. So I think at the end of the day, we will find that there is good and there is evil. It is, of course, in human nature. We're going to see it everywhere. But if you toll up a little bit of a balance sheet, I think you see that our civilization, including the values that those of you who are secular cherish, wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Christianity. In this sense, I think you can say, even if reluctantly, even Michael Shermer, thank God for Christianity. Thank you very much.
If atheism led to genocide, that doesn't make it not true. I mean, it doesn't make there a God just because you don't like the consequences. It does not matter what atheism leads to. It matters whether or not there is a God, whether or not this is truth. This is the pursuit of truth. If there are social ramifications, we will have to fucking adapt our morality like we have through all the ages. Look, slavery became illegal in this country 150 years ago. Not even that. So I don't understand people who aren't moral relativists. To tell you the truth, I do not understand, because morals obviously change over time.